Let me ask you something real. You ever been standing there, your mind is full, your heart empty, just about to make that choice you already know ain't right? Like turning that stone into bread, like Jesus was tempted to do? You hungry, tired, ready to make it make sense just to survive. And something stops you, a feeling, a voice, a pause. You don't even know how to explain it, but deep down, you know you were just redirected. That was God. And don't let anybody convince you otherwise. This ain't about religion. This is about the reality that God proves Himself all day, every day, even to the ones who say they don't believe. He don't need your permission to speak. He's already speaking. The real question is, are you still enough to hear it? Today, I want to walk you through the real proof of God, not just in theology books or fancy sermons, but in everyday life. From your thoughts, to your interruptions, to the peace you can't even explain. You ever had a thought that interrupts the one thing you were about to act on? Like you were about to send a text, make the call, or say something, and then something just whispered, don't. That's not just your conscience, that's the Spirit of God trying to protect your future. We call it instinct, we call it gut feeling, but deep down, it's His voice. Romans 1:20, I believe it is, says, His invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. Now, what does that mean? What's the translation of that? That means you already know creation talks, conscience talk, even interruptions talk. You just stop calling it God because people taught you fate had to sound religious. You ever get an idea that feels way smarter than you had time to think it through? Or a thought that shows up so peaceful, it quiets everything else down? That's Him. Isaiah 55, 8:11 says, My thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are higher. He's not just in thunder. He's in the whisper, in the thought that says, call me, in that urge that says, wait, in the reminder that says, forgive. Proof is not always fireworks. Sometimes proof is a whisper that stops you from sinking. You thought the silence meant he left, but what if it was a setup for a breath? You dreamed that line in sleep, but he was thinking quiet and deep. You thought your heart just made that choice, but underneath was still his voice. You thought the peace came from a nap, but he rerouted your whole map. He didn't knock loud, he whispered grace. He pulled you gently from that place. And every time you turn your face, he still looked at you, just in case. You don't have to believe in gravity for it to keep you grounded. You don't have to believe in God for him to keep you breathing. Job 33:14-18 says, God speaks one way, then another, though man may not perceive it. Sometimes in dreams, sometimes in nudges, sometimes in that feeling that says, don't go down that road. If you ever been protected from something you didn't even see, if you ever had a moment where the wrong door just wouldn't open, that was him. Still guiding, still watching, still speaking. Even Jesus had a moment in the wilderness. The enemy said, turn these stones into bread. He was tired, hungry, but he didn't fall. Why? Because he knew who he was. He didn't need proof through performance or acting. He had peace through his identity. Sometimes the strongest temptation you feel isn't about the thing. It's about what you've forgotten. You've forgotten that you're covered. You forgot that God is with you. You forgot you're being spoken to in more ways than one. And he's not waiting for you to be perfect. He's just waiting for you to pay attention. You wanted thunder. He gave you a thought. You wanted answers, but he already taught. You wanted proof that you could trace. He sent peace you couldn't place. You looked for signs in the skies. He answered back through lullabies. A child's laugh, a door that closed, a moment froze and didn't explode. You think you stumbled into grace? No, he walked you past that place. You call it luck, or that was wild. But God's been speaking since you were a child. He didn't stop when you stopped listening. He just started sending different messengers. Maybe a breeze, delay, a whisper in a stranger's words you can't shake. He's not gone. He's in all. If you missed him loud, now hear him small. How to listen differently. This is the real work. Slow your scroll. Sometimes that noise isn't outside. It's the inside you never mute. Ask this question out loud. God, is that you? Then listen, not for thunder, but for stillness. Track divine patterns. Coincidence isn't always random. Start writing down the moments you're protected or prompted or you just calmed. Practice response. When you feel that nudge, follow it. That's how trust is built. Obedience trains your ears. You don't need one more sign. You just need to stop calling it something else. Stop naming his voice luck. Stop labeling his presence vibes. Stop asking for the proof when you've always been carried. Turn the stone back into stone. You don't need to make a miracle to feel like he's near. He is. He's been talking, and you already know it. Final affirmation. God, I felt you. Even when I couldn't explain you, You've spoken my thoughts, my silence, my sighs. You've protected me from what I didn't even see and whispered truth in my decisions. Forgive me for every time I called you coincidence. Forgive me for the moments I wanted more when you already gave everything. I don't need to turn the stone to bread. I don't need a miracle to believe, because I now see God always been speaking, and I'm finally ready to listen. God bless.